Now, let's have a look at stories that made headlines in the Sunday papers. We're now joined by Nomazima Nkosi, who is assistant editor of investigations at the Herald. Nomazima, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. We're going to be starting with that story on the Sunday Times, the big headline, where we now learned that officials from the transport department went to France to go and look for a new machine for our licenses, but instead they went on what seemed like a high-living holiday shopping spree. What are the details of that?
Good morning. Good morning. So we're seeing this morning that these officials from the transport department did, in fact, it looks like they went on a luxury trip to France because they didn't even get to look at the correct machines while they were in France. And as the story in the Sunday Times said, two of the officials didn't even actually look at the technical aspects of this machine. Meanwhile, we know that back here in South Africa, there's over 500,000 residents still waiting on their cards. So what it looks like, it reads like it was a wasteful expenditure trip. And hopefully what we're going to see is eventually we're going to see some accountabilities on the side of the officials involved in that whole trip.
I still want to stick with the Sunday Times. On the right column, Motlanthe follows Mbeki in pulling out of the dialogue. It seems to be one of the latest foundations. Interestingly, former President Kgalema Motlanthe also has his own forum, which is the Inclusive Growth Forum, which he hosts in the Drakensberg every year and has interlocutors and policy experts and academics and business leaders from all walks of life in South Africa convene there for 2 to 3 days in similar sort of discussions about the state of the country and what the future looks like. One would have assumed that he, of all people, would want to support a national dialogue forum as such, given that that's sort of what he's been doing for the last couple of years. But he's pulled out, it seems.
Yes, as reported by Lizeka, he's the second former head of state to do so, following Thabo Mbeki. There seemingly seems to be a lot of issues that are arising out of the dialogue. We're seeing tensions between civil society organizations and politicians, with government officials feeling that this is a step in the right direction. Meanwhile, civil society organizations aren't, I suppose, as positive. And as Motlanthe says in the article itself, given South Africa's problems, sometimes you do not need a dialogue. You may need a referendum. So we're yet to see how this is going to unfold. Hopefully, I suppose everyone is hoping for the best, but there's not really that much faith in government. So we're going to see if Motlanthe is going to come back to the table or not. So that remains to be seen, and we're going to see how it eventually plays out.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Sunday World. And it's leading there with UCT's free degree bribe to rape complaint being probed, where the new Minister of Higher Education, Buti Manamela, is asking for a report detailing how the institution concluded its investigations into allegations that a student was coerced into dropping a rape case in exchange for a pass mark. What details does the Sunday World give us there?
They've got court papers. They're citing court papers. They've spoken to the minister. They know who the complainant is, but they've opted to leave out the complainant's name. And there have been similar allegations, I think, that have been made in the past with regards to the UCT itself on social media dating a few years ago. So as with the minister's recommendation, or rather the probe into the allegations itself, we're hoping to see what the final report says, because the allegations in themselves are quite serious. And as the article says, that there were both officials from the university and lawyers involved in that whole discussion. So the allegations are quite damning. They putting the university in sort of a bad light. and they need to be tested, and hopefully they can be done with speed, and there's transparency around how that whole process unfolded and how the recommendations itself were made. So they need to be actually tested in court, so to see if there was any validity to the claims being made by the complainant. So we do need to see those tested in court, and once the report is done, hopefully it can be made public to deter other institutions from conducting similar exercises, because we know that we are in Women's Month.
Yes.
And similarly, I don't know what it is about Women's Month, but a lot of cases against women seem to emerge when women are meant to be protected. So hopefully the report is made public and finalized quicker, sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Let's move on over to the Sunday Tribune. The Sunday Tribune leads with the story that, of course, was quite the headline over the last couple of days, and that is the killing of Siyanda Mvelase, an e-hailing driver who was killed outside Maponya Mall, or inside of Maponya Mall, it seems. And, of course, the community was up in arms and upset, and they shut down the mall, and there were protests, and a taxi was also burned, another vehicle was burnt, and the details around this has been quite spine-chilling. But what the Sunday Tribune is leading with here is that his mother seemingly is not able to bury him.
It's quite a sad story, quite a devastating story, in fact, because we know from reading stories from last week that the reason why this young man went out to Johannesburg was to make a living for himself and to take care of that sickly mother, because he'd been struggling for years to get a job. Finally was able to, with the help of his family, buy this vehicle, and was only, I think he'd only been driving Ubers for about 2 days before the tragic incident happened. So I'm not too sure, because as we've seen in the week leading to today, his family was struggling, and as the story says, that they don't have the money to repatriate his ashes, and I think the story says the only thing that was remaining was the shin bone. They don't have the money to repatriate him from Gauteng to KZN and to conduct a burial. So one would hope that some Good Samaritans, or even government, the provincial government of KZN, could possibly step in and assist that family, because we do know even within a municipal level, you do have assisting mechanisms such as pauper bills. So I would hope that the family is able to maybe even approach the municipality, local councillor. There's discretionary funds, there's pauper burials, but I think it would be a case if the family is even aware of those mechanisms that they can use. But the whole thing is just very tragic. It's quite tragic.
Let's maybe one last story that I quickly want to touch on here, and that is the search for the pilot continues after a crash. This was in Durban on the beach, and of course the visuals that we saw were quite graphic. This aerobatic plane crashed right into the ocean after a display for what was meant to inspire children to become pilots themselves, and the search for that pilot seems to continue. Do we have any details around any more of this case?
Unfortunately not, but seemingly I think it's the second case in South Africa where we've seen a crash happen, and hopefully one would hope that the body's recovered soon, for the sake of the family, so that they can find peace and move on. But in terms of details, I can't give any at this point, other than what's already been reported.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much this morning for bringing us an update on some of these stories and, of course, what's in the Sunday papers. We really do appreciate your time, Nomazima.
Thank you so much.